Captain Ji-won Kim stood on the bridge of the UES Indomitable, watching the stars through the main window. The ship was huge, almost 2 kilometers long, and it was humanity's best exploration vessel. They had been traveling for 3 weeks to reach the Kepler 442 system, a place no human had ever visited before. "Captain, we are getting close to the planet," said Lieutenant Minho Park from his station. Minho was young, maybe 25 years old, with quick hands that moved fast across his control panel. He was the best communications officer in the Yam fleet. Ji-won nodded. She was 42 years old and had been in space for 20 years. Her black hair was tied back in a simple ponytail, and her uniform was always perfect. She had led many missions before, but this one felt different. The planet below them was rich with metals and minerals that Earth needed badly. "Start the scanning," Ji-won ordered. "I want to know everything about this world." The crew worked quietly. There were 300 people on the Indomitable, all of them the best at their jobs. They had families back on Earth and the 12 human colonies. They were here to find new homes for humanity, new places where people could live and grow. Dr. Yuna Lee walked onto the bridge. She was the ship's chief scientist and also served as a diplomat when needed. Yuna was 38 years old with kind eyes and a gentle voice. She spoke 7 Earth languages and had studied alien contact procedures for years. "The planet looks perfect," Yuna said, looking at the data on her tablet. "Good air, fresh water, and lots of space for cities. The mining sites could feed our colonies for decades." Ji-won smiled. This was exactly what they hoped to find. Humanity had been expanding into space for only 50 years. They had learned to travel faster than light just 10 years ago. Compared to what might be out there, humans were still babies taking their first steps. "Captain!" Minho's voice was sharp with worry. "I'm getting signals from the other side of the planet. Big ships, really big ones." The bridge became quiet. Everyone stopped what they were doing. First contact with aliens was something they had trained for, but it still made everyone nervous. "How many ships?" Ji-won asked. "At least 20, maybe. More." "They're huge, Captain. Much bigger than us." Ji-won felt her heart beat faster, but her voice stayed calm. "Red alert. All stations ready. Minho, try to contact them. Use the peaceful first contact protocols." The ship's lights changed to red. People moved quickly to their battle stations, but they hoped they would not need to fight. Humanity's greatest dream was to find friendly aliens who could teach them about the galaxy. Minho worked at his station, sending out signals in mathematics and basic pictures. These were messages that any smart species should understand. "Hello," the messages said. "We are peaceful. We want to be friends." For 10 minutes, nothing happened. Then the alien ships moved. They came around the planet fast, much faster than human ships could move. On the main screen, the crew saw them clearly for the first time. The alien ships looked like giant insects, made of metal. They were dark and covered with spikes and weapons. The smallest one was twice as big as the Indomitable. The biggest one was like a flying city. "Captain, they're trying to talk to us," Minho said. His face was pale. "But the message, it's not friendly." The main screen changed. An alien face appeared and everyone on the bridge stepped back in fear. The creature had 4 eyes, sharp teeth, and skin like old leather. When it spoke, its voice was like metal scraping against stone. "Humans," the alien said. "You do not belong here. This system belongs to the Vorthak hegemony. You will leave now, or you will die." Dr. Yuna Lee stepped forward. "Captain, let me try to talk to them." "I am Dr. Yuna Lee," she said to the screen. "We come in peace. We did not know this system belonged to anyone. We can share the planet. There is enough space for all of us." The alien leader made a sound that might have been laughing, but it was terrible to hear. "Humans are weak. Humans are nothing. You will take your small ship and go back to your tiny worlds. You will never come to this part of space again. If you do, we will destroy every human world we can find." "We cannot do that," Ji-won said, stepping next to Yuna. "Our people need new homes. Our colonies need the metals on this planet. We can work together. The alien's four eyes became bright with anger. Then you have chosen death. The screen went black. Immediately, alarms started ringing all over the ship. Captain, they're attacking the mining station on the planet, Minho shouted. On the screen, they could see the human mining station on Kepler 442c. It was a small city where 2,000 people lived and worked. Families had made their homes there. Children played in the parks between the mining equipment. The alien ships fired their weapons. Bright beams of energy hit the station again and again. The buildings exploded. The power plants burst into flames. In less than 5 minutes, everything was gone. 2,000 people dead. Men, women, children, all gone. Jiwan watched in horror. Her hands made fists, but there was nothing she could do. The Indomitable was alone, far from help, facing 20 alien warships. Get us out of here, she whispered. Then louder, jump to hyperspace, now. The ship jumped away from the system, leaving the dead mining station behind. But the images stayed in everyone's mind. The alien leader's cruel laugh, the explosion of the human homes, the deaths of innocent people. Back on Earth, President Donghyun Choi received the report in his office. He was a man of 60 years with gray hair and wise eyes. He had led Earth through many difficult times, but nothing like this. 2,000 people, he said quietly, reading the report again. Dead because they would not let us share a planet. Admiral Soo Min Han stood across from his desk. She was 55 years old, the best military leader humanity had ever produced. Her uniform was covered with medals from defending the outer colonies from pirates and rebels. Mr. President, this is war, Admiral Han said. The aliens have made their choice. Now we must make ours. 3 days later, President Choi spoke to the United Earth Assembly. Representatives from all human worlds watched as he stood at the podium. His voice was heavy with sadness, but also strong with determination. My fellow humans, he began. 3 days ago, we learned that we are not alone in the universe. We learned that some of our neighbors are not friendly. The Vorthak hegemony has killed 2,000 of our people. They demand that we stay in our small corner of space forever. The assembly was completely quiet. Everyone knew what was coming. But we are human, President Choi continued. We do not bow to bullies. We do not abandon our dreams because someone threatens us. We came from caves to reach the stars. We will not go backward now. He paused and looked around the room. I am appointing Admiral Soo Min Han as Supreme Commander of all Earth's military forces. We will prepare for war. We will defend our right to exist among the stars. And we will show these aliens that humanity does not give up. The assembly erupted in cheers and also in worry. Everyone knew this would be the hardest fight humanity had ever faced. But they also knew they had no choice. In space, Captain Jiwan Kim received new orders. Her ship would not return to Earth. Instead, she would stay at the edge of human space, watching for alien attacks. As she read the orders, she thought about the 2,000 people who died at the mining station. They wanted to scare us, she said to Dr. Yuna Lee. They wanted us to run away and hide. Did it work? Yuna asked. Jiwan looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, the aliens were preparing for war. They thought humans were weak and easy to defeat. They were about to learn how wrong they were. No, Jiwan said. It did not work. It just made us angry. Admiral Soo Min Han stood in the war room deep under Earth's capital city. The walls were covered with screens showing maps of human space and what they knew about alien territory. The numbers on those screens made her stomach feel sick. Tell me again, she said to the young man at the computer. Taehyun Nam was only 28 years old, but he was the best military analyst Earth had. His job was to study battles and predict who would win. He looked at his data and shook his head. The Vorthak hegemony controls over 10,000 star systems, Taehyun said. They have at least 50,000 warships. We have 12 systems and 200 ships. If this was a fair fight, we would lose in less than a week. But it won't be a fair fight, Admiral Han said. She was not ready to give up. What advantages do we have? We're smaller and faster, Taehyun said. Our ships can move and hide better than theirs. And we know our own territory perfectly. But Admiral, even with those advantages, I calculate our chances of survival at 3 out of 10,000. Admiral Han was quiet for a moment. Those were terrible odds. But she had not become admiral by giving up when things looked bad. Then, we don't fight fair, she said. We fight smart. Across the city, Dr. Hyejin Yoon was working in her laboratory. She was 35 years old and the smartest physicist on Earth. Her lab was full of strange machines and computers that hurt to look at. She had been working for 3 days without sleep, trying to solve a problem that might save humanity. Dr. Yoon, her assistant said, you need to rest. You'll make mistakes if you're too tired. No time, Hyejin said, not looking up from her work. The aliens have ships all over the galaxy. They can talk to each other instantly across thousands of light years. If we can do the same thing, we can coordinate our attacks perfectly. She was working on quantum entanglement, a way to connect particles across any distance. If it worked, human ships could talk to each other instantly, no matter how far apart they were. It would give them a huge advantage in battle. Got it, Hyejin shouted suddenly. On her screen, 2 particles were spinning in perfect sync even though they were in different rooms. Call Admiral Han. Tell her we can build the communication network. In another part of the city, engineer Junho Seo was working on a different problem. He was 40 years old and had built some of humanity's best ships, but now he needed to make them invisible. The problem is energy, he explained to his team. Every ship gives off heat and radiation. The aliens can see that from very far away. But what if we could hide those signals? His team had been working on ghost drive technology. It would wrap a ship in a field that bent light and energy around it. To enemy sensors, the ship would look like empty space. Sir, we're getting strange readings, one of his assistants said. The test ship just disappeared from our screens. Junho smiled. Perfect. Now the aliens won't see us coming. Admiral Han called a meeting of all the military leaders. In the room were captains, generals, and scientists. They all looked worried. Everyone knew the aliens could attack at any time. We cannot fight them ship to ship, Admiral Han said. They have too many ships and their weapons are too strong, so we won't fight them that way. We'll fight like ghosts. She pointed to the star map. The aliens are spread out across thousands of systems. They think they're safe because they're so powerful, but that means their supply lines are very long. Their communication posts are alone and unguarded. We'll hit those targets and disappear before they can fight back. Captain Sang-jin. O raised his hand. He was 33 years old and commanded the fastest attack ship in the fleet. Admiral, that means we'll be fighting alone, far from home. If something goes wrong, no one can help us. That's right, Admiral Han said. It's dangerous, but it's our only chance. We'll be like wolves hunting a giant elephant. We can't kill it in one bite, but we can make it bleed until it falls down. 3 weeks later, Captain O led the first Ghost mission. His ship, the UES Shadow, was equipped with the new Ghost Drive and quantum communication system. They jumped to a Vorthak supply depot 300 light-years from Earth. Remember, Captain, O told his crew, we go in fast, destroy the depot, and get out. Don't fight their ships if you can avoid it. The Shadow appeared at the edge of the system, invisible to alien sensors. Through their telescopes, they could see the supply depot. It was huge, like a metal city floating in space. Dozens of alien cargo ships were loading supplies. Target their fuel storage, Captain O ordered. If we destroy that, they can't refuel their ships in this sector. The Shadow moved closer, still invisible. When they were close enough, they fired all their weapons at once. Explosions ripped through the depot. Alien ships tried to find who was attacking them, but they couldn't see anything. In less than 10 minutes, the depot was destroyed. The Shadow jumped back to hyperspace and escaped. The aliens were left confused and angry, with no supplies for their ships in that sector. Perfect, Admiral Han said when she got the report. Now we do it again, and again, and again. But the war took a strange turn when Commander Yoon-bi Lim made an unexpected discovery. She was 30 years old and commanded a scout ship called the UES Whisper. Her job was to watch alien movements and report back to Earth. While hiding in an asteroid field, Commander Lim saw something that surprised her. A group of alien ships was attacking another group of aliens. But these new aliens looked different. They were smaller and their ships were beautiful instead of scary. "Captain, I'm picking up a distress signal," her communications officer said. "It's not from the Vorthak. It's from someone else." Commander Lim made a decision that would change the war. "Move us closer. I want to see what's happening." Through their telescopes, they watched the battle. The Vorthak ships were attacking a convoy of the beautiful alien ships. The smaller aliens were trying to escape, but they had no weapons. The Vorthak were destroying them one by one. "Those aren't soldiers," Commander Lim said. "They're refugees. The Vorthak are hunting civilians." She couldn't watch innocent people die. "All weapons target the Vorthak ships, fire." The whisper was small, but its weapons were powerful. The surprise attack destroyed 2 Vorthak ships and damaged a third. The surviving Vorthak ships retreated, leaving the refugee convoy alone. One of the beautiful alien ships sent a message to the whisper. On the screen appeared a face that looked almost human, but with larger eyes and blue skin. "Thank you for saving us," the alien said. "I am Kalari Navigator Vesitala. We thought all warmbloods had forgotten how to show mercy." Commander Lim was amazed. "You can speak our language?" "We learn quickly," Vesitala said. "We have been slaves of the Vorthak for 800 years. We know their language, their ships, their weaknesses. If you are fighting them, we want to help." This was incredible news. Commander Lim sent an immediate message to Earth through the quantum communication network. Within hours, Admiral Han and President Choi were talking directly to the Kalari. "Refugees. We can give you maps of all Vorthak territory," Vestala explained. "We know where their shipyards are, where they keep their weapons, where their leaders live. We also have biotechnology that might help your ships." "What do you want in return?" President Choi asked. "Freedom," Vestala said simply. "Help us free our people from slavery. There are billions of Kalari spread across Vorthak space. We want to go home." The alliance between humans and Kalari was formed that day. It was secret because the Vorthak would kill any Kalari caught helping humans. But slowly, carefully, the Kalari began sharing their knowledge. Dr. Hyejin Yoon worked with Kalari scientists to improve the quantum communication network. Engineer Junho Seo learned how to make ghost drive technology even better. Captain Sang Jin-oh planned attacks using Kalari maps of Vorthak territory. For 6 months, the Ghost War continued. Human ships would appear from nowhere, destroy important Vorthak targets, and disappear. The aliens became frustrated and angry. They couldn't catch the human ships and they couldn't predict where they would attack next. But the Vorthak were not stupid. If they couldn't catch human ships, they would make the humans stop attacking by threatening something they cared about. "Admiral," Taehyun Nam said, running into the war room. "We're getting reports from all over human space. The Vorthak are attacking our civilian colonies. They're not trying to capture them. They're destroying everything." Admiral Han felt ice in her stomach. On the screens, she could see the reports coming in. The colony on New Hope was burning. The farms on Green Valley were destroyed. Thousands of humans were dead or running for their lives. "They can't fight our ghost ships," Admiral Han said. "So they're trying to scare us by killing civilians." President Choi's voice came through the speakers. "Admiral, this has to stop. We can't let them murder our people." "I know, sir," Admiral Han said, "but if we come out to fight them directly, they'll destroy our fleet. Then they'll kill everyone anyway. So what do we do?" Admiral Han looked at the star map. The Vorthak had hundreds of ships attacking human colonies. But those ships were far from their home territory, far from their supplies. They were vulnerable. "We make them pay for every human they kill," she said. "And we make sure they know. We can reach anywhere in their territory." The Ghost War was about to become something much bigger. The Vorthak thought they could scare humanity into surrender by killing. Dr. Hyejin Yoon had not slept in 4 days. Her laboratory looked like a storm had hit it. Papers covered every surface, and strange machines hummed and sparked in the corners. She was close to something amazing, something that could change the war. "Dr. Yoon, you really need to rest," her assistant said for the 10th time that day. Almost there, Hijin whispered, staring at her computer screen. Just need to adjust the temporal field generators by 0.003%. She was working on something that should have been impossible. For months she had been studying how time worked at the smallest level. She discovered that if you created the right kind of energy field, you could make a ship exist slightly outside of normal time. Phase shields, she called them. For a few minutes, a ship with phase shields would be almost impossible to hit. Weapons would pass right through it like it was a ghost. Her computer beeped. The test was complete. On the screen, she could see that her small test object had successfully phased out of normal spacetime for exactly 3 minutes and 12 seconds. It works, she shouted so loud that people in the next room could hear her. Call Admiral Han. Tell her the phase shields are ready. Admiral Han was in the war room when she got the news. She had been studying reports from the front lines, and they were not good. The Vorthak had destroyed 8 more human colonies in the past week. Millions of people were dead or homeless. Phase shields? Admiral Han asked when Dr. Yoon explained the technology. You mean our ships can become invisible to weapons? Not invisible, Hyejin said. They exist in a slightly different time stream. Energy weapons pass through them without causing damage, but it only works for a few minutes and it uses enormous amounts of power. Admiral Han smiled for the first time in weeks. A few minutes might be enough. How soon can you install them on our ships? The first ships can be ready in 2 weeks, Hyejin said. But Admiral, this is still experimental. We don't know what could go wrong. Doctor, we're losing this war. We need to try something different. 2 weeks later, Admiral Han's fleet gathered at Proxima Tertius, a star system on the edge of human space. 50 human ships faced a much larger Vorthak force. The alien fleet had 500 warships, led by a massive command vessel that was bigger than anything humans had ever built. Captain Jiwon Kim commanded one of the ships with the new phase shields. She felt nervous as she looked at the enemy fleet through her ship's cameras. Her crew was nervous too. They all knew this battle would decide the future of humanity. All ships, this is Admiral Han, came the voice over the radio. Today we show the aliens that humans don't give up. Remember your training. Trust your ships. Trust each other. The Vorthak fleet moved forward, confident they would win easily. They had 10 ships for every human ship. Their weapons were more powerful. Their armor was thicker. They expected to destroy the human fleet in minutes, but Admiral Han had a plan. All ships quantum network active, perfect coordination mode. Thanks to Dr. Yoon's quantum communication system, every human ship could talk to every other ship, instantly. They could coordinate their movements like one giant machine instead of 50 separate ships. Phase shields activate, Admiral Han ordered. All 50 human ships seemed to flicker and become slightly transparent. The Vorthak fired their weapons, but the energy beams passed right through the human ships without doing any damage. Now, Admiral Han shouted. Attack. Pattern Delta. The human ships moved like a school of fish, perfectly coordinated. They flew between the alien ships, firing their weapons at close range. The Vorthak couldn't hit them back because their weapons couldn't touch the phased ships. Colonel Jamin Bey led a special team of Marines trained for boarding enemy ships. His transport ship flew right through the shields of a Vorthak command vessel and materialized inside their hangar bay. Go, 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 Colonel Bey shouted as his Marines poured out of their ship. They wore special armor and carried weapons designed to work in alien environments. The Vorthak soldiers in the hangar were completely surprised. They had never seen humans before, and they didn't expect enemies to appear inside their own ship. Colonel Bey's Marines fought through the corridors heading for the command center. These aliens are tough, one Marine said as they battled through the ship, but they're not ready for close combat. Colonel Bey kicked down the door to the command center. Inside, Vorthak officers were trying to coordinate their fleet's response to the human attack. But with the command ship captured, their fleet was in chaos. Surrender, Colonel Bey said, pointing his weapon at the Vorthak commander. Your fleet is beaten. The alien commander looked around at the human Marines. His 4 eyes showed confusion and something that might have been respect. How did you get here? Our shields were up. Our defenses were active. Human technology, Colonel Bey said simply. Surrender now and your crew lives. In space, the battle was almost over. The phase shields had worked perfectly. The human ships had destroyed or captured dozens of Vorthak vessels without losing a single ship of their own. The remaining alien ships were retreating in panic. Admiral Han watched from her flagship as the largest Vorthak command ship slowly turned and pointed its weapons at empty space. Colonel Bay's Marines had taken control and were now using the alien ship against its own fleet. "This is Admiral Han to all Vorthak ships," she broadcast. "Your command ship is under our control. Your fleet is defeated. Surrender now or we will destroy you." The Vorthak fleet commander's face appeared on the main screen. He looked angry and confused. "This is impossible. You are only 50 ships. We are 500. Numbers don't matter if you can't hit your target," Admiral Han said. "Surrender." One by one, the Vorthak ships powered down their weapons. They had never lost a battle before, especially not to a smaller force. But the humans had technology they didn't understand and tactics they couldn't predict. After the battle, Intelligence Officer Neon Park was questioning captured Vorthak officers. She was 29 years old and spoke several alien languages. Her job was to learn the enemy's secrets. "You don't understand," one Vorthak prisoner said. "This war doesn't matter. Something much worse is coming." "What do you mean?" Neon asked. The alien looked scared. "The Void Reapers. They are machines from the dark space between galaxies. Every 10,000 years they wake up and consume everything. Stars, planets, entire civilizations, nothing can stop them." Neon felt cold. "When will they come?" "Soon," the alien whispered. "The signs are already here. Strange signals from dark space. Dead systems where there should be living worlds. The Reapers are awakening. If they're so dangerous, why are you fighting us instead of preparing to fight them?" The Vorthak prisoner laughed, but it was not a happy sound. "Because we are slaves. 2. The Vorthak Empire serves the machine lords who came before the Reapers. We conquer worlds and gather resources for them. We don't have a choice." This was shocking news. Neon immediately sent a report to Admiral Han and President Choi. The Vorthak were not the real enemy. They were just servants of something much worse. General Wujin Kang was brought in to question the highest-ranking Vorthak prisoner. Warlord Thex Mora was the alien who had first threatened humanity. He was now in a prison cell, but his 4 eyes still burned with anger. "Your people have won this battle," Thex Mora said, "but you have doomed yourselves. The Void Reapers will come, and they will consume your worlds just like they consumed 1,000 others." "Tell me about these Reapers," General Kang said. "Machines. The size of moons," Thex Mora said. "They eat planets and turn the material into more machines. They have been sleeping for 10,000 years, but now they wake. Their scouts have already been seen in the outer galaxy. Why should we believe you?" Thex Mora was quiet for a moment. When he spoke again, his voice was different, less angry, more desperate. "Because I don't want to die either. The Reapers don't care about Vorthak or human. They consume everything. If you want to survive, if any of us want to survive, we must work together." General Kang couldn't believe what he was hearing. "You want us to ally with you? After you killed thousands of our people?" "Yes," Thex Mora said simply. "Because the alternative is extinction for all of us." Back on Earth, President Choi sat in his office reading the reports from the battle and the interrogations. The victory at Proxima Tertius was amazing, but the news about the Void Reapers was terrifying. Admiral Han entered his office. "Mr. President, we need to make a decision. Do we trust the Vorthak about this Reaper threat?" "I don't know," President Choi said. "It could be a trick. They might be lying to save themselves. But what if they're telling the truth? Our long-range sensors are picking up strange signals from the edge of the galaxy. Dead systems where there should be life. Something is out there." President Choi looked out his window at the city below. Millions of people were going about their lives not knowing that something terrible might be coming from the darkness between stars. "Set up a meeting with Warlord Thex Mora," he said finally. "If these Reapers are real, we need to know everything about them." 3 days later, President Choi stood face to face with the alien who had started the war. Thex Mora was in chains, but his four eyes were clear and focused. "You have seen the sensor readings," Thexmora said. "The Reapers are coming." President Choi stood before the United Earth Assembly once again, but this time his speech would be even harder than declaring war. The Great Hall was packed with representatives from every human world, and they all looked worried. "My fellow humans," President Choi began, "I come to you today with a request that will test everything we believe in. I am asking you to approve an alliance with the Vorthak, the same aliens who killed thousands of our people." The hall erupted in angry shouts. Representatives jumped to their feet, demanding to know why they should trust their enemies. President Choi raised his hand for silence. "Because something worse is coming," he said. "The Void Reapers are machines from the darkness between galaxies. They consume entire civilizations. Our choice is simple: work together with the Vorthak, or watch everything we love get destroyed." The debate lasted for hours. Some representatives wanted to keep fighting the Vorthak. Others thought the Reaper threat might be a lie, but in the end they voted to approve the alliance. The vote was close, 51% in favor, 49% against. Admiral Ji-won Kim, recently promoted after her success at Proxima, Tertius, was chosen to lead the first joint human-Vorthak fleet. As she walked onto the bridge of her new flagship, the UES Unity, she felt nervous. Half her crew were humans she had served with for years. The other half were Vorthak warriors, who had been trying to kill her just weeks ago. "Captain," said her new second-in-command, a Vorthak officer named Gexthalar, "the fleet is ready to depart." Ji-won looked at the alien standing next to her. Gexthalar was tall and covered in thick, dark skin. His four eyes watched her carefully, and she could see intelligence behind them. He had been fighting humans for months, but now they had to trust each other. "Very well," Ji-won said. "Set course for the Kalari home system. It's time to free some slaves." The first mission of the Alliance was to liberate the Kalari people from Vorthak slave camps. The Kalari had been helping humans secretly for months, and now it was time to repay that debt. The joint fleet jumped into hyperspace. 12 human ships and 8 Vorthak ships, working together for the first time. On the bridge of the Unity, human and Vorthak officers sat side by side, sharing information and planning attacks. "The slave camps are heavily defended," Gexthalar explained, pointing to a holographic map. "But most of the guards are not expecting an attack from a combined fleet." Lieutenant Minho Park, now serving as the fleet's communications officer, was amazed at how quickly the two species were learning to work together. "Sir, the Vorthak ships are sharing their sensor data with us. We can see everything in the system." The Kalari home world of Kestalan was a beautiful blue and green planet, but it was surrounded by military stations and prison ships. Millions of Kalari were held in camps across the planet's surface. "All ships, attack formation," Admiral Ji-won ordered. "Remember, we're here to free prisoners, not destroy everything." The battle was unlike anything either species had fought before. Human ships used their phase shields and speed to distract the defenders, while Vorthak ships used their heavy weapons to break through the station defenses. Working together, they were much more effective than either could be alone. Dr. Jisoo Oh was aboard one of the transport ships, ready to help coordinate the liberation effort. She was 32 years old and specialized in alien cultures. Her job was to make sure humans, Vorthak, and Kalari could all work together. "This is incredible," she said as she watched the battle through the ship's cameras. 6 months ago, humans and Vorthak were trying to kill each other. Now look at them. The liberation of Kestalan was a complete success. The prison camps were broken open and millions of Kalari were freed. But more importantly, the operation proved that the alliance could work. Commander Vesitala, the Kalari navigator who had first contacted humans, was overjoyed to see her homeworld free. "We have waited 800 years for this day," she said. "Now we can help you fight the machines from the void." The alliance grew quickly after that. The Kalari brought their biotechnology and knowledge of alien cultures. The crystalline Javari contributed advanced energy weapons. The nomadic Talron offered their vast trading networks and knowledge of secret routes through space. Dr. Jisoo Oh found herself in charge of the integration committee, trying to help all these different species work together. It was not easy. The Vorthak were used to commanding others. The Kalari were afraid after centuries of slavery. The Javari communicated through light patterns that most other species couldn't understand. We need a common language, Dr. O explained to the committee. Not just words, but ways of thinking and working together. She developed universal translation systems that could handle dozens of alien languages. More importantly, she created training programs that taught each species about the others. Humans learned Vorthak military tactics. Vorthak learned human adaptability. Everyone learned to respect the Kalari's wisdom and the Javari's technical skills. Meanwhile, Commander Seungwon Lim was overseeing the biggest construction project in galactic history. The Great Defense Line was a network of fortified star systems designed to stop the Void Reapers when they arrived. We need weapons platforms, supply depots, and repair facilities, Commander Lim explained to his construction teams. Everything has to be built to handle technology we've never seen before. The defense line stretched across 3 galactic sectors. Each fortified system had massive shipyards where humans, Vorthak, Kalari, and other allied species worked together to build new kinds of warships. The new ships were amazing combinations of different technologies. Human phase shields protected them. Vorthak heavy armor made them tough. Kalari biotechnology helped them repair themselves. Javari energy weapons gave them incredible firepower. But even with all this preparation, everyone knew the real test was coming. Long-range sensors were picking up strange signals from the edge of the galaxy. Something huge was moving through the darkness between stars. The first Void Reaper probe arrived 6 months after the defense line was completed. Captain Sangjin Oh, now commanding a mixed-species patrol fleet, was the first to encounter it. "By all the stars," he whispered as the thing appeared on his sensors. "It's the size of a small moon." The Reaper probe was a perfect sphere of black metal, covered with weapons and sensors that no one recognized. It moved slowly through space, scanning everything it passed. When it detected the patrol fleet, it turned toward them. "All ships, attack," Captain O ordered. 30 Allied ships opened fire at once. Human weapons, Vorthak cannons, Kalari bioweapons, and Javari energy beams all struck the probe at the same time. For a moment, it seemed like they might destroy it quickly. Then the probe fired back. The beam that came from the probe was unlike anything any of the Allies had seen. It wasn't energy or matter, but something else entirely. It passed right through the phase shields of the human ships and cut 3 vessels in half. "Fall back," Captain O shouted. "Reform at safe distance." The battle lasted 2 hours. The Allied fleet kept attacking, but the probe seemed almost impossible to damage. Its hull was made of some kind of metal that absorbed energy and repaired itself when damaged. Finally, Captain O made a desperate decision. "All ships, concentrate fire on one point. Everything you've got, all at the same time." Every weapon in the fleet fired at exactly the same spot on the probe's hull. The combined firepower was enormous. Slowly, very slowly, a crack appeared in the black metal. The crack grew wider until finally the probe exploded, but the victory cost them dearly. They had lost 12 ships and over 3,000 crew members to destroy just one enemy probe. And according to the Vorthak records, the main Reaper fleet had millions of these probes plus much larger ships. Strategic planner Min Jae Kim studied the battle reports with growing worry. He was 31 years old and one of the Alliance's best tactical minds. His job was to figure out how to fight an enemy that seemed impossible to defeat. "Admiral Han," he said, presenting his analysis to the Alliance leadership, "we cannot win this war with conventional tactics. Even working together, we destroyed one probe at the cost of 12 ships. The main Reaper fleet will have millions of probes plus ships the size of planets. What do you recommend?" Admiral Han asked. "We need something completely different," Min Jae said. "Something the Reapers have never encountered before. They're machines, which means they think like machines. But we have something they don't have." "What's that?" "Imagination, creativity, the ability to do things that don't make logical sense. If we can find a way to use those qualities as weapons, we might have a chance." Dr. Hyejin Yoon was already working on the problem. Her new laboratory was located on a space station orbiting Earth, and it was filled with scientists from every allied species. Together, they were trying to understand how consciousness itself might be turned into a weapon. The probe's scanners couldn't predict our tactics, Dr. Yoon explained to her team. It expected us to fight like machines, logically and predictably. When we did something creative, it took longer to respond. Dr. Vesitala, the Kalari scientist, added her own observations. In our mythology, there are stories of warriors who defeated impossible enemies by thinking in ways the enemies couldn't understand. Perhaps our ancestors knew something we have forgotten. The Void Reaper fleet appeared at the edge of the galaxy like a plague of metal locusts. Admiral Jiwon Kim watched through her ship's sensors as the darkness between stars filled with enemy vessels. 2 million ships, each one designed for only one purpose: to consume everything in their path. By all the gods of all our worlds, whispered Commander Gexthalar, her Vorthok second in command. I have never seen so many ships in one place. At the center of the Reaper fleet was Harvester Prime, a ship so large it looked like a small planet. It was covered with weapons and surrounded by a cloud of smaller vessels. Energy readings from OI. The massive ship hurt to look at. All Allied fleets, this is Admiral Kim. She broadcast across the quantum communication network. The enemy has arrived. Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for. Today we decide the future of all life in the galaxy. The Great Defense Line stretched across dozens of star systems. 5 million Allied ships took their positions, ready to fight. It was the largest fleet ever assembled, with humans, Vorthok, Kalari, Javari, Talron, and 20 other species working together. But everyone knew it might not be enough. Dr. Hyejin Yoon was aboard the UES Eternal Dawn, a massive ship designed specifically for her neural storm project. The ship was filled with quantum computers and consciousness amplifiers. Most importantly, it carried 10 million human volunteers who had agreed to link their minds together. Dr. Yoon, the neural network is ready, her assistant reported. All volunteers are in position. Hyejin felt nervous as she looked at the screens showing the volunteer chambers. 10 million people from across human space had come here, knowing they might not survive. They were teachers, farmers, engineers, artists, parents, and children, all united by one purpose: to turn human creativity into a weapon. What exactly will happen when we activate the system? Asked Dr. Vestala, the Kalari scientist working with her. I don't know, Hyejin admitted. We're trying to weaponize imagination itself, pure human creativity, amplified by quantum technology and focused into a beam. It should disrupt the Reaper's computer minds. Should? This has never been tried before. We might save the galaxy, or we might accidentally destroy ourselves. The first wave of Void Reapers reached the outer defense stations. The battle began immediately, and it was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. The Reapers moved with perfect coordination, like parts of a single giant machine. Their weapons could cut through any armor, and they seemed to know exactly where each Allied ship would move. They're predicting our tactics, Captain Sang Jin-oh reported from his position at Defense Station Alpha. Every time we try a new strategy, they're already ready for it. Admiral Jiwon watched the battle reports with growing fear. The Allied fleet was fighting bravely, but they were losing. For every Reaper ship destroyed, 3 Allied vessels were lost. At this rate, the defense line would fall within hours. All ships fall back to the second line, she ordered. We need time for the neural storm to charge up. As the Allied fleet retreated, the Void Reapers pressed forward. They moved through space like a wave of destruction, consuming the abandoned defense stations and turning the metal into new ships. Everything they touched became part of their fleet. Captain Chae Young-han commanded the UES Harmony, one of 12 ships equipped with prototype neural storm projectors. Her crew included humans, Kalari, and even some Vorthak volunteers who wanted to contribute their unique thought patterns to the weapon. Captain, the neural amplifiers are online, her science officer reported, but we're getting strange readings from the volunteer chambers, some kind of consciousness resonance. Captain Han looked at the readings and saw something amazing. The minds of different species were beginning to synchronize, creating thought patterns that none of them could produce alone. Human creativity was combining with Kalari wisdom, Vorthak determination, and the unique perspectives of a dozen other species. "It's working," she whispered. "The neural network is creating something completely new." Meanwhile, Harvester Prime had reached the main battle zone. The massive Reaper ship began broadcasting a signal that filled the quantum communication networks. The voice that came through was cold and mechanical, without any emotion. "Organic life forms," Harvester Prime said. "You have fought well, but your resistance is illogical. We have consumed 1,000 galaxies. We cannot be stopped. Surrender now and your deaths will be quick." Emperor Jaewon Park, watching from Earth, opened a channel to respond. "This is Emperor Park of the Allied Galactic Empire. We don't surrender, we don't give up, and we're about to show you why organic life is stronger than any machine, Harvester." Prime's response was to fire its main weapon. The beam that emerged from the massive ship was the size of a small moon. It struck the planet of New Geneva, and within seconds, the entire world was gone. Billions of people simply vanished. The destruction of New Geneva sent shockwaves through the Allied fleet. Many ships began to retreat in panic. The sight of an entire planet being destroyed in seconds was too much for some crews to handle, but Admiral Ji-won refused to give up. "All ships, hold your positions. Dr. Yoon, how much longer do you need?" "2 more minutes," came the reply from the Eternal Dawn. "The neural network is almost at full power." Those 2 minutes felt like hours. The Void Reapers pressed their attack, destroying Allied ships by the hundreds. Captain Sang Jin-oh's ship was cut in half by a Reaper beam. Commander Seung-hwan Lim's defense station exploded in a ball of fire. Brave soldiers from dozens of species died fighting to buy time for the neural storm. "Dr. Yoon, we can't wait any longer," Admiral Ji-won said. "Fire now or there won't be a fleet left to protect." "Neural storm, full power," Dr. Yoon shouted. The UES Eternal Dawn began to glow with strange energy. Inside the ship, 10 million human minds linked together in a way that had never been attempted before. Their thoughts, dreams, fears, and hopes combined into something that was pure creativity given form. The neural storm that erupted from the ship was invisible to normal sensors, but the Void Reapers felt it immediately. For the first time in their existence, they encountered something they couldn't understand or predict. The storm was made of imagination, creativity, and the chaotic beauty of organic thought. Reaper ships began to malfunction as the storm hit them. Their perfect coordination broke down. Ships started firing on each other or flying in random directions. The machines that had conquered 100 galaxies couldn't cope with the pure randomness of creative thought. "It's working," Captain Chae Young-han shouted as her ship added its own neural storm to the attack. "The Reapers are losing control." But Harvester Prime was not defeated yet. The massive ship began to adapt, trying to understand the neural storm and find a way to counter it. Its voice filled the communication channels again. "Impossible," it said, and for the first time there was emotion in its mechanical voice. "This energy signature does not exist in our databases. What are you?" Admiral Ji-won opened a channel to respond. "We're alive," she said simply. "We're messy, unpredictable, creative, and stubborn. We're everything you're not." Harvester Prime tried to fire its main weapon again, but the neural storm was affecting its targeting systems. The beam missed its target and struck empty space. The great machine mind that had conquered so many worlds was confused by the chaotic patterns of organic thought. Dr. Hyejin Yoon realized they had one chance to end this. All ships with neural storm projectors focus on Harvester Prime. Maximum power, everything we've got. 12 allied ships, each powered by the combined consciousness of millions of beings, focused their neural storms on the enemy flagship. The storm of pure creativity struck Harvester Prime like a hurricane of imagination. Inside the massive ship, computer systems began to shut down. The artificial intelligence that had controlled millions of ships for millions of years couldn't process the chaotic input. It was like trying to solve a mathematical equation that included poetry, music, and dreams. "System failure," Harvester Prime's voice said, becoming distorted. "Cannot compute, cannot understand. What is beauty?" The last word came out as a whisper, almost like wonder. Then Harvester Prime went silent. The massive ship drifted. In space, its lights going dark one by one. Without their controlling intelligence, the millions of Reaper ships began to shut down as well. The battle was over. The Void Reapers, who had consumed entire galaxies, had been defeated by something they never expected: the power of imagination and creative thought. But the victory came at a terrible cost. Millions of soldiers had died in the battle. Entire worlds had been destroyed. The Allied fleet was reduced to a fraction of its original size. 3 months later, representatives from every surviving species gathered on Earth for a historic ceremony. The war was over, but the galaxy needed to rebuild. More importantly, it needed a government that could prevent future conflicts. Emperor Jaewon Park stood before the Assembly of Worlds, reading from a document that would change galactic history. "We, the free species of this galaxy, do hereby establish the Galactic Empire, not as conquerors, but as protectors, not to rule over others, but to ensure that all species can live in peace." The Empire's constitution was unlike anything that had existed before. Each species kept control of their own worlds, but they worked together for common defense and trade.